Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a very special live presentation to bring you. I'm going to introduce myself here in just a second, but I want to welcome you. I encourage you to let me know where you're logging in from so that I can connect with you a little bit more. And for this session, please get a pen, something to write with, paper, even open up a Google Doc or whatever it is that you use. This is going to be a very interactive session. So, like I said, I want to introduce myself in case you've not seen me. I've been on the show before. It's a pleasure to be back with you guys. My name is Angel Storm, and I'm the owner of the Manifold Mind. I'm a life coach, and I specialize in narcissistic abuse recovery, and specifically, I help people break the trauma bond. In fact, I'm the creator of the Narcissistic Detox Intensive, which guarantees to do just that. So, before we can break a trauma bond, we first have to identify the things that are keeping us in that relationship, right? We often know that the relationship is toxic, but there's something that's pulling us in. There's something that's keeping us stuck in these same cycles. And so, in this session, we're going to kind of go over some of those things so that you're more able to identify them quicker. Not just in this situation, but in potential future situations. And through these exercises, I'm actually going to show you how you can apply these same principles to other situations. So, welcome. Thank you so much again. And I am grateful to be here with you. So, first of all, what I want you to do is with that pen and paper that I had asked you to get, I would like you to just take 30 seconds and envision your ideal future, right? This can be something that gets lost, especially when you're with a narcissist. You are focused on the day-to-day things, survival, right? And what we want to do now is start switching from survival mode into truly living authentically. And in order to do that, we need to have first a vision of what we want our lives to look like. Okay, so just take 30 seconds, just jot down some things on the paper, write it down in your Google Doc, whatever you're using. How would you like to be spending your time? Who would you like to be spending your time with? What is included in that time? Right? What type of atmosphere? What type of place? I want you to think about this. Just jot a few things down. This is to help you get a vision of what you would truly like to be experiencing while you're alive on planet Earth. And from there, I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see what I'm talking about as I take you through a couple of exercises. This first exercise is called the 4 futures. I'm going to give you 5 futures, but we're going to work through this. And the 4 boxes on the right-hand column side here are potential futures that are available to each of us 3 years from now. And so you see the first box, it's green. This is your absolute ideal future. It's the one that I just had you write down. It's the one that I just had you envisioning. It's the one that, you just said, who you're with and how you're spending your time and who's there with you. Okay. The second box is the yellow box. And this is an okay future. This is an okay outcome. And what I want you to think about right now, I'm sorry, the next box is the orange box. And what I want you to think about with this is something that it's exactly your green future, but maybe 90% of it, right? So you don't have every single thing that you were thinking about, right? But it is an okay future. It's your day-to-day is more or less met. I told you this is called the 4 futures. I'm going to call it 5 futures because where you see the 3 years, where you see the text there, that is actually now. So imagine that we pick up your life the exact way that it is right now and we move it 3 years in the future. Imagine time does not have an impact on it whatsoever. Okay? Nothing about your life changes. It's the exact same in 3 years. You're making the same amount of money, you're living in the same place, you have the same relationships, everything is exactly the same. The next box is going to be, I don't want you to write these down. I'm a big believer in your words creating worlds, and I do not want you to start meditating on these two futures, but I do want you to be aware of them. And in this next future, in this next potential box, we'll just call this a bad outcome, right? So it's not as if it's not the worst possible outcome, but it's something that something does change in your life that causes it to be worse than what it is now. Maybe for some of you, you can think about exactly what this event could be, right? You're thinking about something specifically because you are worried about that right now. You're concerned about it. And I want you to just think about this, if this disaster event, if this bad event happens, what does that mean for you, for your children, for your finances, for your job, for your future, for your current relationships, right? And then the last box is, of course, the disaster event. And again, I don't want you to write this down, but it is what happens if the worst thing occurs in your relationship with a narcissist. And by the way, this could be something that you have zero control over, right? You don't control other people's actions. And so there can be things that the narcissist does, even unexpectedly, but it can completely devastate your existence, right? And that's what I just want you to be aware of. Thank you so much for your participation, Sevilla. I love your green future. So, what we think about is that time acts like this, right? A slow and steady line upwards. But here's what I want you to actually understand. Time works like this. Time works on a curve. What you think is not having the impact that you want to have it see, right? You want to see the manifestation of the things that you are doing. You want to see the changes that you are making to your life, and yet everything looks like it's just staying the same. That's because time does impact things unevenly. This is what it can do to your green outcome. This is what it can do to your okay outcome, to your bad outcome, and to your horrible outcome. What I want you to take a look at here are these black lines now. Right now, all of these 4 potentials, these 5 potentials are even. You have the same amount of potential to achieve your green outcome as you do your red outcome. And this is why it's so important that you take a realistic count of where you are right now, and you have an actual plan for where you want to go in the future, because without that vision, it's just as easy for you to fall into the green plan as it is the red plan. You see that these small, on the left-hand side, the small black lines are showing you how small each step is. But over time, compounded over time, look how far apart those outcomes get. Okay. So right now, I just want you to kind of type in the box. I want you to tell me, what line are you on right now? Identify the color, and then tell me the color of the line in the chat that you're on right now. Again, very small changes to your viewpoint and in the way that you're interacting with a narcissist can inch you up to where you want to be drastically over time, or it can move you further away from those. Over time, there's bigger adjustments that need to happen, right? They're harder to fix. And so what I want to help you do today is to see where you are currently and understand that if you start making small changes today, this will compound over time and get you the drastic results that you are wanting for. Okay? So let me just see if okay, yes, and you can ask questions, yes. I want you to just get an idea of where you are. This is so important again, because if you don't have a realistic understanding, a realistic assessment of which line you're at right now, which one of these outcomes you're headed towards, there's no way to make adjustments now. And again, they're very small adjustments. But in 3 years, those things compound, right? It makes it harder to shift. So I hope this is making sense to everybody. I hope that everybody sees how making small changes now can drastically impact your future, and vice versa, right? Not making changes can also drastically impact your future. And I hope this also shows you that why going along with the flow, right? Trying to put out small fires that the narcissist lights as they begin is a strategy. This will always leave you kind of on repeat, right? You're living the same year after year, and you're not realizing that the situation you're in is getting worse. Okay, so I also want this exercise to show you the benefit of having a strategy, of having a plan, so that you can make your future what you want it to be, and not just be at the mercy of what the narcissist allows you to create, right? So this is the first exercise that I wanted to do with you so that you could get really clear on your vision. We are going to use this vision, your green outcome, in the next exercise that I'm going to show you, which I call my simplified healing process. It helps us identify or uncover some holes, which I call opportunities for you to understand why things haven't quite clicked for you in the past. No matter how many programs you've done, no matter how many videos you've watched, or how many books you've read, or years of therapy you've done, no matter how much time has passed since you even engaged with the narcissist, right? Because time does not heal things, as we're seeing in this 5 futures exercise, right? We're seeing that time impacts, it compounds what you're doing right now. It doesn't make things just magically get better. Okay, so let me go to the next slide here. Again, this is what I'm calling my simplified healing process. I'd like you to get a new sheet of paper, create another, make another screen if you're using Google Docs or you're using something else on the computer, and draw a triangle and put the green outcome from the previous exercise that we just did, your ideal outcome, in the center of the triangle. Okay, I'm going to take you through some of the potential or most common barriers that I see in people who are trying to recover from a narcissistic relationship, and really why they're unable to do so, even though they've tried everything, right? Like I just said, it doesn't matter how many years of therapy you've had, if you don't have a vision towards what you're working, for where you are headed, you're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and getting the same type of outcome. And remember, there's no wrong answer to any of these things. We're going to use the green, yellow, red chart again as we continue going through these exercises. So in the middle, again, I want you to make this your ideal outcome. But most of the people that I work with, they are wanting true freedom from the narcissist, right? They want complete freedom from the narcissist in their spirit, soul, and body. And I am big into holistic treatments or solutions, no matter what situation you are in, because everything that you put your body through will have an impact on your soul, and vice versa, right? And so we want to make sure that you are healthy in all 3 realms. Okay, so I want you to consider 3 obstacles that are keeping you from having what you truly want in the center. And again, I'm going to go through this exercise with you today about why you're stuck in a narcissistic relationship, why you can't get free from it, why no matter what you try, it's like you always end up back in the same place. But you can actually use this for any problem that you're facing, right? You can actually use this process for any problem that you're facing and you can't seem to find a solution for it. So number 1, I want you to think of an obstacle, right? Think about the first thing that you think is keeping you from having this true freedom. And for a lot of my clients, like I said, again, it's because they don't know where to start, or they feel hopeless or overwhelmed with how much stuff they think they have to do, with how many things that they have to do. And even if they could do them all, they just don't know where to start with that, right? The next side, we're going to do another obstacle. So think of a second thing that's keeping you in that same pattern of behavior, not having the outcome that you want. For a lot of people, they lose the trust in themselves. They lose their ability to advocate for themselves, for their future, for their children, for their finances, for whatever it is that they want to have in the relationship, because they no longer trust themselves. And this comes from years of gaslighting, triangulation, other things that the narcissist does while someone is in a relationship with them. And again, we're going to do third obstacles. So think of a third thing that's keeping you specifically stuck. For me, for my clients, and the people that I help, it's the confusion of how to heal, right? I've read the book, I've watched the videos, I've done the therapy, and I still don't have an outcome. Okay, so we know what we want. We have 3 problems that keep us from getting what we want. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to break apart each one of these obstacles, and we're going to come up with 3 potential solutions on how we can face each one of these obstacles, right? It's going to look like this. So the first potential solution is to get a step-by-step guide, right? If I had a step-by-step process in order to know where to start and know how to deal with my feelings of hopelessness, of helplessness, of this extreme, overwhelming confusion that sets in for me. If I had a step-by-step guide, that would help me. Another potential solution is to identify the root cause of that hopelessness. I know a lot of people think it wasn't until I met the narcissist that X, Y, and Z was happening, or that I even thought X, Y, and Z. But the truth of the matter is that there were things there. There were things happening there that were not addressed, that were essentially open doors for the narcissist to come in and to exploit those insecurities, those false beliefs, whatever the situation was. So we got to get to the root cause of why that feeling of hopelessness was there. And a third potential solution is to find more success stories. There's a lot of information out there. I have a YouTube channel my goal is to educate people about narcissism and what to do when you come into contact with somebody who's a narcissist, regardless of, how that looks, whether it's a spouse, it's a parent, it's a sibling, it's a boss, whatever it is, right? But there's a lot of focus on the narcissist and not a lot of focus on people who have successfully come out of these types of relationships, people who have successfully rebuilt their lives and pursued meaningful journeys and careers. Their family life is restored, things like that, right? So we need to think about the information that we're consuming, just as we would think about the food that we consume. So if we're consuming a lack of success stories, maybe I need to change that, right? Maybe I need to start looking, specifically searching out success stories, people who have hopeful, overcoming outcomes. Okay, let's move to the second obstacle, the lack of trust in oneself, right? And let's go through our 3 potential solutions for this. By the way, is everybody okay so far? Please feel free to just chime in if you have a question, if there's something confusing you, if you're not clear about something, you're unsure of something. I will happily take time to explain or answer any questions that you have as we go through this. So the first potential solution to the lack of trust in oneself is to meet your real self, not the version of you that the narcissist has programmed you to accept, not the version of you that has people pleased, right? Maybe your entire life even. We want you to know who you truly are authentically, so that you can show up to the rest of the world, not just with your relationship with the narcissist, but to the rest of the world authentically. The second potential solution is to truly learn what it means to implement boundaries, right? I see a lot of people say, well, I told the narcissist this and then they didn't do it. That is a suggestion, right? And I hope you understand that the difference between a suggestion and boundaries is one comes with consequences and one doesn't because it was a half-baked process, right? So you have to actually have true boundaries. Um, Kurt, if you will keep paying attention to the live stream that I'm doing here, I'm actually taking you through some steps that can help you do that today. So, welcome. Thank you for joining and stay tuned to answer that. Um, Let me get back to the comments in just a moment here. Let's continue to fill out our triangle of the simplified healing process so that we can start learning what to do with this information. The potential solution number 3 is to have measurable goals and outcomes. And again, this is often missing, especially from traditional therapy. I have a PhD, I hold a PhD, and the reason that I'm a life coach and not a therapist is because I've not seen therapy be effective for people who have suffered narcissistic abuse. It doesn't address a lot of these things that I'm mentioning to you right now, and including measurable goals and outcomes. How will I know if I've met my goal? How will I know if I have the outcome that I'm after? There's typically nothing that's measurable in traditional therapy, which is again why I love being a life coach, because I know and my client knows exactly what the goals were after, and these things are measurable. Let's move to the third and what I think is the most important uh, side of this triangle, the confusion on how to heal. Um, and let's go through some potential solutions to this. So first of all, learning to have emotional regulation. I am not talking about simply coping mechanisms. I believe in coping skills. I believe in coping mechanisms. I believe in learning how to do these things. However, I think that stops short of having a truly transformed life, of living truly authentically, because your authentic self knows how to handle every single situation that you're in, presently and in the future. And when I understand my emotions are inputs letting me know that either I like something, something is off, I'm afraid of something, I might be in danger. When I understand how to read my emotions, not allow them to run the show, but I understand how to read them as I receive them, then I'm able to regulate my environment, not just myself, but my environment, so that I'm always placed in a situation where I am meant to thrive. Again, we're moving from survival. We're moving out of just getting through the day and surviving another day. We want to truly wake up and enjoy our lives, every moment of it, right? Okay, the next potential solution um, here is a true spiritual cleansing. Again, I believe in treating yourself as a whole being. You are a spirit, you have a soul, you have a body. And a lot of people understand soul ties. We understand doing a detox for your body, but there's not a lot of people who understand spiritual covenants. And this is a huge aspect of why people continuously not only stay in the cycle of abuse that they're in now, like so the current narcissistic relationship, but they continuously attract that type of spirit into their lives. You will continue to attract the same spirit in a different body unless you understand the true roots of where this originates in the spirit. And of course, the third thing here is understanding habits. And I don't just mean get better habits. Yes, habits are important, but I mean why you have habits in the first place. Who told you? Who told you that it's a good habit, to get up and make your bed or to get up and have breakfast in the morning? All of these things that you're doing, while beneficial to you, right? Having a healthy breakfast, lots of science behind why that's effective and why that's such a needed aspect of somebody's day, of their routine. If we don't understand why we're doing them, it's a lot harder to break bad habits, and it's even harder to start good habits, especially if these things are polar opposite, right? We're not just talking about tweaking a habit, we're talking about setting up something that's completely different than what I've experienced in my life. And um, that can be very difficult for people to do when they don't understand why they're doing what they're doing in the first place. Why would I stop doing something that I'm doing when I think it's working for me? So there can be false beliefs attached to habits that need to be addressed. So I want to get into a more interactive part of this of this talk today, but first I just want to show you this slide here because again, you can actually use this for any situation that you are feeling stuck in, that you are unsure of how to move forward through. So you just want to put your ideal goal or the ideal result that you're after in the center, and then work through this um, process, just as we did in this exercise just now, with whatever your problem or your potential obstacle is. Okay. So now that you have your triangle together, I want you to type in the comments section and let me know if you were to rank each one of these sides, right? So if you were to rank the side of you don't know how to move forward, there's a lot of confusion. If you were to rank these things, would you say green, yellow, or red? So 2 green, 1 yellow, 2 red, 3 red, whatever. I would like to know what your sides are. How are these things, how are you moving along in these obstacles of detangling yourself, unattaching yourself from the narcissist going currently for you? If you can just let me know. Green, yellow, red. How to stop the bad habits. Yes. Well, stopping bad habits, I'm sure everybody is familiar with like the law of inertia, right? Once something is put in motion, there's no such thing as taking away the motion. What you need to do is transform that motion. And that's why, again, it's important to understand the actual root cause of why you have the habit. Because if perhaps there was a false belief there, a lie that you were believing about why you do a habit. And once that comes down, once you are able to reveal that lie, it makes it a lot easier to replace that lie with the truth. And once you believe truth, the habit, the behavior, the action comes natural. It flows natural from that belief. I always say, I can tell what you believe based off of your behavior. I don't need you to even tell me not one word. I can tell you what you believe. And you can say all day that I don't believe that. I believe this. And that's what you think you believe. But behavior follows belief. And so when you change the behavior, when you change the belief, the behavior will naturally follow. So, okay, let me just see. I want to make sure I'm getting all the feedback here. All right. The next step in how to use this information is to take an assessment. So, is to actually rank each one of these sides, green, yellow, red. Why? Because if something is green, you want to actually look at why is this side green? So, if I'm learning how to, let's say the first side, right? Like the third obstacle, there's a lot of confusion on how to move forward, right? Let's say I'm doing a good job at learning emotional regulation. I'm doing a good job of going through the spiritual cleansing, and I'm really understanding how things originate in the spirit, and I'm building new habits that support my destiny, not my history, right? I'm doing all of those things really, really well. I need to look at why I'm doing those things well, because maybe one of my sides is yellow, maybe one of my sides is red, and I want to replicate the results that I've been getting with the green side of my triangle in the yellow and in the red. So the next thing for me to do in order to understand where my effort and energy needs to be focused, I need to understand which side needs the most attention, right? So that I can appropriately put it there. Okay, so just want to pause, right? It's really important for me that everybody on this session has something that they can walk away with, right? I understand your time is valuable, my time is valuable, and I want this to be something that you're truly walking away with that you can actually use, something that you can start to implement. So, does everybody have that? Does everybody have one thing that you can walk away if you logged off right now that you would be able to use? Um, once this session is done. And if not, is there anything that I can help to clarify? But if you do have it, then I would like you to tell me what that one thing is that you're going to walk away with after this session is done. Okay. So, we'll just move on. One of the ways that I like to think about this triangle is, a plant needs sun, soil, and water. It needs three things in order to grow, right? And if without these three things, it's impossible for the plant to survive. And this is a lot of what it is to understand why you're repeating the same behaviors, um, not just in your relationship with a narcissist, but in general, in relationships in general. And you need to know how to where and how to stop those things in order to truly recover from narcissistic abuse, so that you not only get out of. Hi, Diana, thank you for joining. So you need to know those things in order to make a change, right? And in order to truly recover. So we need to know where we are, where we're headed, and how to start. And we also need to know that we don't need to reinvent the wheel on this process, right? We can have trust in ourselves that we can make healthy choices for our lives and for our family, for our futures, and that we are worth investing in apart from the narcissist. And so that's really what I want you to understand here, is that when you just kind of jumble it all together and just say, like, this is an unsolvable process, the narcissist just always does these things, I can't ever break these patterns of behavior, I'm just stuck in this cycle. When it's just this one big problem, it makes it very difficult to overcome that, right? It makes it very difficult to pinpoint, hey, this is something that I can control. Again, you cannot control somebody else. So you cannot change, fix, whatever, the narcissist, but you can control every single thing that you do, every single way that you react or respond to the narcissist, every time that you don't react or respond to the narcissist, every new pattern of behavior that you set up. You control those things. You control the new cycle that you want to have established in your life for your generations, right? I like to put it this way, right? So even the small things that you do, going back to the 4 futures or 5 futures exercise that we started out this session with, it's the small things that add up over time, right? It's the small steps that you take today that actually compound over time. And in 3 years, you can have exactly the type of life that you want to be living if you are willing to stick to those small changes. When we think it's just so overwhelming, that is where we get the 5th future, right? The future of whatever is happening now in your life is just moved 3 years in the future. So you've used 3 years of your life living the same cycles over and over in frustration. It does not need to be this way. When you're if you're a parent and if your child or even you, you get, let's say, a compound fracture, you have a very serious injury that is very visible, right? We can see that there is a break in the body, right? There is something going on here and it needs immediate attention from a professional. We don't wait in that situation to see if time is going to make it better on its own. And yet we often apply that logic to getting out of a narcissistic relationship or to getting help for when we're in a narcissistic relationship. Hi, Kylie. Thank you so much for joining. We think time might make this thing better. And as I showed you in that 4 futures, 5 futures exercise, is that time compounds the problem. So, like you would not just wait and see if the compound fracture heals itself, if you were watching your child with that, if you saw your own body in that type of need, you would find not only a doctor, you would find a very qualified doctor, right? Somebody specific to treat that injury process, right? That specific type of injury. And one of the things that I have found is that people are quick to accept help from people who have letters after their name, which I'm obviously not opposed to that. But not all people are created equal, right? Not all professionals are created equal. And so when you can do this simplified healing process on your own, when you can actually understand, hey, these are the things that I truly need help with, it makes the journey of finding a professional to come walk alongside of you and help you in those specific areas a lot more feasible. What a lot of people do is Google, right? I need to go to therapy, right? Something crazy is happening in my life. I'm having these thoughts of I can't trust myself. I'm not really sure what's going on. I just need to find a therapist is what needs to happen. And so I Google it, but I don't know what type of therapist I'm looking for. I don't know what type of help I really need. I just know that I'm so confused. I'm not happy with my life. I'm feeling very depressed. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling anxious, whatever it is. And I'm hoping that this person can now help me. This is like Googling closest doctor to me when I have a compound fracture. You might be pulling up an ENT. You might be pulling up a ophthalmologist. Those doctors are very specific in what type of medicine they practice. You wouldn't go to see one if you needed surgery, right, on your arm. You would look up somebody who's very knowledgeable in that particular uh, uh, need, right? And the same thing is true for narcissistic abuse. A lot of times people, I hope that, by coming to this talk, you're understanding now why it's possible that you've gone to therapy even for years and have not seen the results or the lasting results that you were looking for because you weren't seeing a true specialist who understood the effects and the cause and effects of narcissistic abuse in a victim, right? In somebody who's experienced that firsthand. And one of the things that motivated me to become a coach in the first place was my own experience with narcissistic abuse, and I saw how devastating, how truly life changing this type of experience could be, right, to somebody, regardless of how successful, how established, how whatever your background was, right? And there's also something to be said about learning from others. I think that when you have a group of peers around you who can come and help you along your process, people who have walked through exactly what you have, it makes the healing a lot easier, right? It brings validation to some of the experiences that you may have been having. It brings a lot of clarity, I think, in what you've been experiencing and helps you see another perspective to potential ways forward. My company's name, side note, is called the Manifold Mind, and this is how I like to describe it. Imagine you have a skyscraper, and you walk in, ground level, and you go in the front door, and then you take the first right, and then you take the first right into that room, and you shut the door. You are going to have maybe potentially a beautiful view, but a very limited view from that room. Manifold means many, right? Multiple, various, and even things that we can't even we haven't yet seen or even thought of in our own minds yet. Imagine sitting in that room, in the skyscraper, the very first room that you went into, and never leaving. Do you think you have a manifold view or you have a minimum view? You have a ground level, one way to look at something viewpoint, not even knowing, not even understanding that you have the whole skyscraper, the whole thing is yours. You have a 360-degree view from multiple levels, right? So you can go as high as you want, you can go as low as you want. There's just an endless amount of perspectives. And this is what is possible with your mind, with the way that you think about things. But so often, through repetition, through being in the same environment so many years, so many months, maybe decades, maybe your entire life, maybe generations, right? Maybe your mom chose somebody that was a narcissist, and now you're repeating that same type of behavior. Maybe it goes back to your grandparents or your great grandparents. Regardless, you've been programmed to choose the minimum, the path of least resistance, not understanding that the entire thing is yours. There's an endless amount of potential that's there for you. That's there for your future, right? And so again, by trying to ignore the impact that the narcissist has had on you, of the way generational curses have even had an impact on you, then we're not able to address the situation fully and truly, right? We're addressing the the first right and the first room on the right view of what's been happening with you, as opposed to the entire thing, so that you can truly get healing, you can truly start showing up authentically. So okay, I want to kind of switch from that. Can you, what if any feedback do I have? Do I have any questions going on right now? I'm trying to just make sure that I'm looking at all of the comments and questions. Do we have any points that need clarity so far? I've been wondering about this. Do narcissists struggle with breakups? I mean, do they remember that they have done wrong things in that relationship and that's why it's broken up? Part of healing is to understand that not everybody thinks about things the way that you do. And I have several videos about this on my YouTube channel, but imagine, a lot of times people think of it this way. Oh, everything was so great in the beginning, right? Me and the narcissist, everything was so great in the beginning. And then all of a sudden we just grew apart, or the narcissist started doing these things, or this happened, or, something caused them to change. That's your perspective on the situation. It's very important to understand, again, you can't control another person. And so if you think that the way you think about things is the way they think about things, we're already at a disadvantage, because the way that we're analyzing the situation, the way that we're looking at the situation isn't a full picture. And so a better way to describe what's actually happened is you are on one side and the narcissist is on the other side, and you were looking at something in the middle. Let's say that thing is a relationship. Yeah, I want a relationship. You're approaching the relationship probably from a standpoint of, I'm looking for my person, my life partner. I want someone who I can, share all of my life with, the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs, whatever. Maybe you wanted children, you wanted whatever it is. You wanted certain things. And the narcissist could have been saying, I want those things too. But that wasn't the motivation for why they were saying the things, right? The reason why they would say those things is because they need supply in that moment, right? The narcissists are energy vampires. So they will say whatever they need to say in order to manipulate and control the situation, and therefore the person involved in the situation, to their end goal. So you're looking at a relationship of like, I want to find my person. And the narcissist could be saying those things, but that's not actually their viewpoint. They're not looking at the same thing from your perspective. You two have completely different viewpoints. There's no way that those two perspectives, there's no way that they would have crossed paths, right? You crossed paths once, and from that moment, you were moving in opposite directions. And it's difficult for people to think that, right? Because the love bombing stages of a narcissistic relationship are typically so strong. They're ingrained in your memory, in your in your psyche so strongly that I know we had really, really, really good times, but a lot of that was manipulation so that you would believe it was a good time, so that you would believe it was a true union. Does that make sense? Does that clear anything up? Um, I think the first part in understanding this question is to understand that narcissists don't they never approached the situation from the same starting point as you. So they do not have the same ending point that you do, right? If I start over here and they start over here, we're ending in two very different places because we never started in the same place. So do they struggle with breakups? Not in the same way you're thinking about it. You're thinking like, do they have regrets? Do they wish it could have been different? Maybe so, but not for the same reasons. They may very well miss the supply. They may miss the attention. They may miss the effects of having that supply in their life, but it doesn't mean that they miss that person that in terms of their true being, right? They missed the things that that person brought into their life, but not necessarily because that person was the one for them. That narcissists don't think about things the way that you think about things. I normally don't recommend people to do much research. I believe very strongly that people turn into information gluttons when it comes to narcissism, right? They just consume information without doing anything with that information. However, on this note, there's a guy out there named H.D. Tutor. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a narcissist and he has a channel on a YouTube channel, and he talks about the way that he thinks about things and the way that he perceives things. And it is important, I think, that people do really understand that this is not something to play around with, right? When you understand that this person has so much potential to ruin not just what you have now, but any hope of having a future, a flourishing future, it's time to start analyzing why we would be attracted to that in the first place, right? And really getting to the root of why these behaviors are acceptable and even sought after in your life first. Because again, this is a really dangerous and damaging disease. So you can check out his YouTube channel. I think it might be helpful to kind of understand a little bit more about the way you think about things, and then understanding how narcissists would think about that same situation. Um, Thanks a lot for clearing it up. My perspective and their perspective would be totally different. Yes, exactly. That's right. That's exactly right. Your perspectives are different. You may be looking at the same thing, but you're looking at it from two totally different vantage points. And therefore you will have two very completely opposite endpoints. Are there any other questions? Is there any other points of clarity that I can help with? Did you get something from the brainstorming through the problem, that kind of clarity session? I hope that did leave you with something that you can truly walk away with after spending an hour of your time with me, and that you're able to start implementing a change in your life right now. Um, if I don't have any more questions, I'll just tell you um, everything that we covered in the triangle, the simplified healing process today, is covered in my narcissistic detox intensive, and it comes with a money back guarantee. I guarantee you that it will work. I've helped hundreds of people over the past 5 years break the trauma bonds so they can truly start to rebuild their lives. And if you're interested in applying to see if you can join my intensive, you can shoot me an email, info@themanifoldmind.com, or you can text me. You can send the word detox to 512-677-9322, or just check out any of my websites. You can shoot me a DM, whatever, on Instagram or anything. All of my social media links and everything are already they're in the description of this video. They're in the comments of this section. It's on the screen right now. What was that man's name on YouTube? H.D. Tutor. Do narcissistic people gaslight their partner a lot? Okay. Yes. And gaslighting is a natural way of behavior for a narcissist. So even if you're not in a romantic relationship, narcissistic people will gaslight people because it's part of their character. Um, I am no longer in a relationship, yet I miss him and detest him. So, okay, that is a classic sign of the trauma bond still being in place. The trauma bond will make you crave. Let me just actually quickly explain the trauma bond really, really fast, without going into too much detail. You wouldn't tell a heroin addict, stop doing heroin. And yet we tell people who have left narcissists or who are trying to leave narcissists, just leave them, just divorce them, just get over it. Your brain has been learning how to tailor make chemicals for your body specifically to keep you addicted to this person. And if you don't understand and treat it that seriously, again, this is why I have not seen therapy work for narcissistic abuse recovery, because it does not address the trauma bond. It does not address the biochemical issues that happen when you are trauma bonded to a person. And so if you don't understand how to treat this connection in your brain first and rewire your brain towards healthy connections, then even when you're away from it, you'll miss it. A heroin addict who is away from their, or any drug, it could be anything, right? It could be gambling. It could be any type of substance like that. Somebody who's away from it is just thinking about, how can I get it next? How can I get another time to go gambling next? How can I get another, whatever it is that they're after, they're thinking about how to do it next. That's a trauma bond. Okay. It's a chemical, it's a biological formation that really needs to be addressed. This is not just an emotional one of like, oh, I just miss this person. Yes, that's a component of it. That's how you feel because of the biochemical formation that's been happening, right? Why are narcissistic relationships so hard to leave? Why can't I just forget and move on? Okay, I think I just answered that. The trauma bond will keep you bonded to not only that, again, it's not just a physical component, right? It's not just the physical structure in your brain, the biochemical makeup that's going on. It's also a spiritual one. And again, you're going to attract the same spirit in a different body until this is truly broken, until this cycle is true. Like the roots of this whole thing, this whole structure have been uprooted. Is there any possibility that narcissists would ever develop or have an insight about their behavior? Yes, absolutely. Narcissists know what they're doing. They get better at what they are doing. They learn. Narcissists are learning every time they interact with you. This is why they are able to keep you in a cycle for so long. Because if you took it at face value, right, of somebody disrespecting you, gaslighting you, calling you to question your own reality, using triangulation against you, potentially using financial control against you, there's no way you would tolerate this type of thing, except that the narcissists have learned how to make you tolerate it. Of course, they are learning and they understand very well what they are doing. And I think that for somebody who's not a narcissist to actually accept that and believe that there are people who are that sadistic, dare I say evil, it's like, no, I don't want to believe that there are people like that, right? And your own limiting belief is what's keeping you from accepting and seeing the truth. And this is also very common, is that most empaths, I guarantee you're an empath, do not want to believe that there is someone who is like that, because it's so opposite of them. It really wars against their worldview, right? That I don't want to believe that there could be somebody out there who is that damaging, right? I don't want to accept it. And so if I If I don't accept it, then it doesn't exist. That kind of mentality. He hurt me physically, emotionally, financially, and I lost so much. How can I possibly still think I have love for this person? Again, the trauma bond. The trauma bond will keep you feeling again, the addict. If you've ever watched any of these intervention shows, I don't know if they're still on anymore, but where the family would sit down with the person and say, like, you're hurting this family. We're going to have to make a decision about, communicating with you anymore or having a relationship with you anymore. And yet the addict is literally choosing their addiction over their family, over the things that they have built in their life, over the things that they truly love. They are allowing a counterfeit love to come in and usurp that position where their family should be sitting. This happens all of the time. In other contexts, we can understand, well, they're an addict. Well, they have this problem. They have this chemical imbalance. And yet we don't think about it. Most people do not think about it, I should say, in terms of what happens when you're leaving an emotionally abusive situation, and specifically when you are leaving a narcissist, and one that's more on the dark triad spectrum of things, right? Because narcissism it's on a spectrum. You can be multiple things at the same time, right? So it's not just like, oh, narcissist, and that's like one person. It can show up in multiple different ways, and the strength of it is varying. And it sounds to me like the person that you may have been dealing with would have been closer to somebody who's one of the dark triads, or somebody who at least has antisocial personality traits and things like that. So when we don't treat it like, when we don't treat it holistically, so when we don't treat it like there's a physical addiction, where we don't treat it like there is likely a generational trauma that has caused these behaviors to set in the first place, when we ignore the holistic picture and we only try to treat part of it and assume that that part is going to give us the whole complete healing, we really sell that person who's trying to get help short. We don't offer them the thing that's really going to set them free. So I hope that answers that question. The thing to keep in mind is that there is help. There is hope for that situation. I mean, again, I've helped hundreds of people over the past 5 years. I've come out of this my own self. I know that there is life after narcissism. It's completely possible to have not just a whole life, but a very complete, fulfilling, and more than you could have ever dreamed of life. It comes down to what you are willing, when you are willing to make a change. The way I see it, there's always 3 ways forward. There's always 3 ways forward. One is that you can continue to look and look and look for the perfect program, the perfect therapist, the perfect coach, the perfect thing that is going to give you what you think it is that you're after. 2 is to do nothing. Or 3 is to take a risk, what looks like a risk, and do something that is opposite of what you have been doing, likely have been doing in the past, and truly invest in yourself and in your future apart from the narcissist. So I hope that leaves you at least with hope, knowing that there is something, it's completely possible. And not only possible, it's completely probable. If you can survive a narcissist, it's absolutely possible to rebuild. Think about how much energy you had to put into maintaining and surviving that relationship. It's possible to take that same amount of energy and put it into something that's actually giving you life. Tanya, I'm so sorry to hear that. And, that's also very common, right? Again, generational traumas and things that don't truly get healed become gateways for narcissists to prey on, and they absolutely do that. In an attempt to manipulate others, do narcissists end up telling a lot of lies? I just wonder how much lies the narcissist has made me believe to be true. Yes, of course. Gaslighting is nothing but a lie, right? No matter what they're doing, they are manipulating your reality to make you think something else is happening. They get you to question your own self, your friends, your family, anybody who would advocate on your behalf. And so that you start not only believing those lies, but you start only believing the lies, right? Because the narcissist, the true goal of them is to isolate you so much so that you only depend on them to tell you right from wrong, to tell you what's real and false, to tell you what the next move to make should be, right? So they absolutely want you to become dependent, completely dependent upon them, because when that happens, you have no escape, and they want to keep you in a small space and keep you controlled and keep you as this supply for them and for them alone at their beck and call. So, yes, the narcissist absolutely uses a lot of lies to manipulate the situation, to keep you trapped, to keep you hooked, to keep you buying that false reality that they have presented. So, okay, if there are no further questions, then I just want to say thank you guys so much, truly, for taking the time to spend this time with me, for investing in this hour in yourself, for hopefully learning some helpful tools that you can take away and apply it to not only your situation with the narcissist, but like I said, any time that you feel stuck, any time that you're not sure how to move forward, you can use the simplified healing process for whatever obstacle you may be facing at that time. So, thank you again so much. And I really appreciate your dedication to not only keeping your life narcissistic free, but to keep moving towards a narcissistic free society. So, thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of your week.